Howdy everybody, this is Omar, your Audio Amigo, here today with another Audio Amigo review for you guys. Today we're going to be looking at an IEM from BASN, a company that I have no experience with. This here is the BMaster5, a 5-driver hybrid IEM priced at $175 US, targeted at gigging musicians. With a pretty impressive accessories package and some pretty cool looks, it's playing in a very competitive price bracket. Does it manage to do something different enough to stand out? Or is this one sort of for professionals only? Let's find out. As usual, a quick disclaimer before we start. This BMaster5 was sent to me by BASN for review. I'm not being paid for this review, but because I could turn around and sell this if I wanted to, I've gone ahead and activated the paid promotion feature here on YouTube. I do these disclaimers because I believe in full transparency when there's potential bias besides my own personal taste at play. Thank you so much to BASN for sending this out for review, and thank all of you for your continued support. So let's start by looking at those impressive accessories that I alluded to earlier. The BMaster5, you open the package, you get the IEMs inside on a foam tray here, and next to it you will find this hard metal case which has everything else inside. Inside this case you will find a cable up here which is long and is currently fitted on here, and then you get this smaller leather travel pouch which is quite nice, has BASN branding on it, and inside you find a shorter cable which we'll talk about a little bit later. I like the pouch. That bulge is just the Velcro straps for the cables. You get a 1/4-inch adapter, you get a cleaning tool with a brush, and you get a baggie filled with tips and an MMCX removal tool, which is always nice to see. I've gone ahead and put the tips in my usual display boxes. And I will tell you that the ear tip selection here is a bit of a tell that this is sort of intended for professional use. Not only do you get a full set of standard silicone tips, you also get foam tips in small, medium, and large, and in addition to that, you get small, medium, and large of double flange and triple flange tips in all 3 sizes. Foams and flanged tips like this are fantastic for noise attenuation, and if you're going to be selling these to gigging musicians, I think that that's an excellent choice. The travel case here is rather large. It can easily fit a small player or a dongle in here, in addition to other things you're going to be carrying around. Even though this is not pocketable, this most certainly is and is better for everyday use. Overall, I think all of the accessories are very well thought out, and this is one of the better accessories packages that I've seen at this price point, so well done, BASN. Okay, we got 2 cables to look at here. We'll go ahead and start with what I'm going to call the travel cable. This is a silvery-looking 4-wire braid that breaks up into 2-wire twists at the Y-split. I like the color on it. It does use rather thin wires, but it still feels pretty sturdy in the hands. The 3.5mm connector is a right angle unit with metal and plastic construction and the BASN logo on it. The Y-split matches the rest of the hardware and also features the BASN logo. The chin slider here is a 2-hole unit which works well to hold the wires in place, but you know me, doesn't quite fit as flush as I would like, which only I seem to care about. The cable features inline controls. You've got the classic volume up and down, as well as play pause / answer call. Also has a microphone, which sounds like this.
In recent years, several machines have been developed which will determine the roots of certain equations, and a few of those have been built for universities and research organizations. If such a machine is to be at all complete or useful, it must be very large, complicated, and expensive, and very few have been built. As these machines are improved, however, they may become smaller, simpler, and more useful. The slide rule itself may be used to determine approximate values of the roots of quadratic and cubic equations.
And then you have the ear hooks, which are soft and feel nice in the ears, and the MMCX connectors, which match the rest of the hardware, have color coding on them and are labeled, which I really appreciate. Overall, this is a good little cable for walking around, going places, and as I said, traveling. So now let's look at what I call the studio cable, and I call it that because it's sort of heftier, uses a thicker gauge of wire, and is appreciably longer than the travel cable. Main differences besides the cables are the hardware here. This is the 3.5mm connector. It's got that nice contour to make it easier to pull out of desks or amps. It's also got the BASN branding, which I like to see. The Y-split, once I get to it, is very similar, also has the BASN branding on it, and the chin slider this time is a ring instead of a 2-hole unit, so it sits flush, and thanks to the chonkiness of the wires, works well to hold them in place. Then we have the ear hooks, which are also nice and comfortable, didn't cause any issues, and the same color-coded and labeled MMCX connectors there, which complete the package. I did most of my testing with the studio cable. It just felt better in the hands and more substantial to me overall. It also was nice to be able to roll around in my chair at my desk and not have to unplug my IEMs the whole time, which is nice. I think offering two cables with clearly distinct use cases is a great move here. Good job, BASN. I like both cables. Let's take a look at the build for the BMaster5. They feel pretty solid, honestly. These are resin shells with metal top plates. The nozzles are built in as part of the lower shell and feature a metal mesh here to protect from debris. As you can see, there's no ventilation on the front half of the IEM, but if I grab my flashlight here, so if I can angle this properly, you can see that there is a second tube coming off of the dynamic driver there, right there, okay? And it leads to the back volume, as you can see right there, which means that the front of the driver is bypassed and leads to this big vent hole back here. That meant no driver flex, and for me, no pressure buildup issues, which is rather nice. The faceplate, as I mentioned, is metal with like a resin inlay. You've got these really cool looking 3D skull and crossbone motif going on with the BASN logo on top. Overall, I think it's a pretty typical design for IEMs at this price point. The metal faceplate is nice compared to something that's full resin. I think it adds a little bit of heft to the design. But now let's go ahead and pull up the specifications. The BMaster5, as the name implies, is a 5-driver hybrid IEM featuring an 8mm liquid silicone diaphragm dynamic driver, as well as 4 balanced armatures, 2 for the mid-range and 2 for the treble. Please note, if you're going to be looking at getting these, there are actually 2 versions of the BMaster5 on sale. This one that I have here with MMCX connectors and another with a Pentacon connection. The specs on these are actually different, and they use different drivers and have different frequency response, so please be aware this entire review is for the MMCX version, not the Pentacon version. Drivability is extremely easy here thanks to the low impedance and high sensitivity. The shells are relatively lightweight despite those metal faceplates. They're right in line with other hybrid IEMs at this price point. The studio cable does add a bit of heft, but the travel cable is better for walking or everyday use in a situation where overall weight would matter. The nozzles are a bit smaller than average, and they're a little on the shorter side. Despite being a multi-driver hybrid IEM with a crossover network, the BMaster5 actually didn't exhibit that much of a noticeable difference in frequency response when I exposed it to higher impedance sources or used an impedance adapter. I think it might have been engineered that way on purpose, as some older mixing desks or amps could have higher output impedance, and you don't really want to be changing the frequency response in those situations. I think that's another thing that shows that this is aimed at a more professional audio audience. Overall, other than that, frequency response doesn't change thing, the specifications I feel are pretty typical for a 5-driver hybrid. But now it's time for the cool wall. I feel like the BMaster5 here are going to be sort of a Marmite set. You're going to either love it or hate it. It does come in 6 different colors. I have the gold unit here. The design on all 6 of them is the same. The only thing that changes is the color of the sort of skull and crossbones motif going on here. The BASN logo can be a bit hard to read on some of the colors, but to me it's not a huge deal. I think the design, whether or not you're going to like it, is going to depend heavily on the color that you choose. I think that the blue, the white, the black, and the gold look pretty good. My favorites are this gold and the blue. The other colors are honestly a little bit bland looking. I feel like the skull and crossbones sort of blend into the background of the color, and there's not enough contrast. For these gold ones I have here, I'm going to put these in cool. Probably the blue and the black as well. The other colors will probably end up in bland. I think the gold looks really nice in person. So, I may have liked these, but my tastes are questionable at best. So let's go ahead and see what the Council of Ladies has to say about these. Starting off with what color they liked best. We have 2 votes each for gold and blue, and 1 vote for black. Blue and gold, incidentally, were my preferred color choices, so good job me. In terms of are these pretty, we have a 4-to-1 vote in favor, with lady number 4 opting for meh rather than not pretty, which is pretty good for her. Same score for compliments, by the way, 4-to-1, which is encouraging. It looks like the skull and crossbones pattern did pretty well here. Let's take a look at their thoughts. It looks like the gold on the ones that I have caught their eyes pretty well, but the skull and crossbones design may not have come through immediately upon like first impressions, I guess. That can be a good or a bad thing depending on the tastes of the individual ladies. Overall, I would say pretty positive thoughts overall, and dual 4-to-1 scores. Well done, BASN. As far as comfort goes, these are sort of semi-custom shaped shells, so your mileage will vary on these. There's a bit of a bulge here, and the wing has a sort of a decent protrusion on it, so as always, try to audition these before you commit to them. I found them very comfortable. The nozzles are quite short. It meant an easier fit for more ears. I had no issues with these for longer periods of wear, and although I typically prefer a deeper fit, the shallow fit that I did get with these was secure enough that I didn't spend my time constantly adjusting these in my ears. As far as the tiny ears tests go, these did pass. Again, shallow fit for my wife, but for her it was a very stable shallow fit. She was able to laugh, eat, talk, do basically anything with these without losing her seal. So well done, BASN. That nozzle design, pretty solid. But now let's go ahead and get started with how these sound. Maybe the B in BMaster here stands for bass, because there's a pretty nice sub-bass rumble here and pretty boosted mid-bass presentation happening. This makes sense to me for an IEM that appears to be targeting bass guitar players and drummers in its marketing. For EDM, this is honestly a pretty fun set. John Christian's remix of Tiesto and Diplo's Come On sounds really nice here. Both the mid and sub bass drops I feel have really good presence in the mix and pretty decent texture. I personally felt the mid bass more than the sub bass though, which will be to some people's preferences, maybe not to others. I thought it was fine. There is a lot of low end energy here, and the same holds true for, like I said, bass guitar and kick drum. The famous bass line in Fat Larry's band's Act Like You Know has a great thump and body to it. The kick drum, well, kicks in your ears, for lack of a better term. I wouldn't go as far as calling this a bass headset, though. It does live in the same neighborhood. The mid bass, for sure, I think, might qualify as near bass head level, but the sub bass might be a bit lacking for some folks, and the mid bass might be a bit much for some folks. I personally think it's a lot of fun. Yeah, boosted bass. As you would expect, the very energetic mid-bass presentation has an effect on the mid-range. The lower mids are definitely what I would call warmed over. For example, Queen's Fat-Bottomed Girls. The replay on these feels dominated by that kick drum and that bass guitar, as well as some of the distortion on the guitars. I feel like Freddie Mercury's vocals are just a bit further back, and then the guitars and all the distortion that comes with them gets pushed forward, and that's not completely overshadowed in the same way that the vocals are. The bass guitar and the bass drums provide this thick layer of altered tonality that seems to coat the replay. It sounds very lo-fi, if you will. It doesn't absolutely ruin the replay. I can see some folks preferring this tonality. It's just going to depend on your preference here. The tonal effects do extend upwards towards the female vocals as well. Bananarama's Venus has the vocals pushed maybe a bit further back than I'm used to, and when you add in the slightly husky tonality over the top, I don't think that female vocals are necessarily this IEM's strong point. The BMaster doesn't outright ruin female vocals, but the bass guitar, regular guitar, drums, and other instruments are 100% the focus of this tuning, which again makes sense to me as a sort of IEM geared at gigging musicians, specifically drummers and bassists. Moving on to the upper mids and treble. I personally didn't find that female vocal harmonics were a point of emphasis here, but they also aren't pushed back like the fundamentals are. Mamamoo's Hip has the sort of breathy, close to the mic effects very well realized, and there's little intentional sibilant moments that throw off really nice harmonics. Nothing actually sibilant, at least to my ears, but there's pretty good energy up here without making things overly fatiguing. As you would expect from an IEM targeted at drummers, the percussion harmonics actually have pretty good sparkle and shine to them. All of the percussion in Phil Collins' Susuido feels appropriately energetic and nice and forward without being piercing or exceptionally fatiguing, again, at least to my ears. I can see some of the energy here being maybe a bit fatiguing for some folks, but again, I didn't have an issue with the tuning here. The decay feels natural, and this level of energy, I think, is quite nice. Again, all of these tuning decisions make perfect sense for something tuned for drummers, and while it isn't the airiest treble presentation in the world, the percussion and vocal harmonics are actually pretty well realized here. So the way I describe the tuning, it might not seem like the most technical IEM in the world, but at the low end, the dynamic driver I feel does a pretty good job resolving low end detail. The opening to Rabbit Roomba's Nuestro Ayer has a great bass guitar going on, and it has this little echo effect in the left ear with some really nice string rumble, and I feel like the BMaster5 did a pretty good job of replaying the echo as well as the string texture from the performance there. I feel like the BMaster5 does excellently with low frequency events, while at the higher end, it's honestly going to depend on how you personally perceive the detail and the energy that this has. I found that most of the percussive detail was nice and clear thanks to the energy up there in the lower treble. The BMaster5 didn't really excel at my Waltz for Debbie sort of upper end detail test, but it didn't outright fail either. I could still make out some of the glasses and silverware without thinking about it, just not as many as I could hear on other sets at or around this price point. I would put the overall technical ability of this set sort of around the AFUL Explorer, maybe a little bit under it, but I can't verify that rating at this exact moment. I'm going purely off of memory since my Explorer is actually out on loan currently. In terms of stereo imaging, the BMaster5 I feel is quite good. It does really good with the cymbal shifting effect in Ted Nugent's Stranglehold. I feel it's rendered very well across the ears here. I didn't feel that that effect was crushed down, and I didn't feel any sort of claustrophobic effect on my common stereo testing tracks. The perceived 3D soundstage here isn't the absolute widest at this price point, but it's also not going to hold back or crush down any well-mastered tracks. The live version of Affirmation by George Benson, I feel, still has really good spatial imaging here. It's easy to tell where each effect and instrument is coming from in your sort of headspace. Overall, I would say, while the stereo separation on this set is good, the perceived 3D soundstage is what I would call about average. Alright, so the BMaster5 here. I would describe this as a sort of warmish V-shaped set. There's a lot of emphasis on the low-end presentation here, and I also feel a good deal of energy up in the percussion harmonics. This is what I would describe as an old school sound, or that pleasant lo-fi vibe that I think some other IEMs with the big mid-bass boosts happening have. You can call it muddiness, you can call it veiled. Fact of the matter is, some people like that sound, other people really hate it. What I've done is I've rounded up some similar-ish sounding sets, but fact of the matter is, in the $150 to $200 price range where this set is playing, I haven't encountered a lot of things tuned like this, but I did my best in terms of comparisons, so let's go ahead and get into it. Go ahead and kick things off with a budget pick, the QKZ X HBB, priced around $18-20. Mine is out on loan right now, so I've got this QKZ ZXK, sort of oniony looking IEM to stand in. I was not able to do A-B comparisons with these two sets, so treat what I'm going to be saying here as graph talk rather than my usual A to B listening comparison with my notes. I'm going off of memory here. I feel like the QKZ XHBB has a similar overall tonality to the BMaster5. The differences I think that would be the most pronounced are the extra sub-bass emphasis on the QKZ XHBB and more upper mids and lower treble power on the BMaster5. That's why I, again, describe the QKZ XHBB as warm, while I would describe the BMaster5 as more of a warm V-shape. From memory, I'm pretty confident in saying that the BMaster5 is more resolving and more detailed, although given the price discrepancy between these two, that's to be expected. I just thought I should point out the QKZ XHBB sounds roughly, sort of, kind of like the BMaster5, except for in the treble, and as I said, that sub-bass, it's a similar overall shape. Next up, another set that I have described as lo-fi. It's the Draco, priced at $60 US. I was able to listen to these two side by side, so I felt like the BMaster5 was a more V-shaped, slightly higher resolution version of the Draco, but with less of that soundstage, sort of stuff going on. The Draco, I felt, is definitely more vocal forward, and as I mentioned, has more of a perceived 3D soundstage going on, but I personally see the BMaster5 as a straight-up upgrade to the Draco if you don't mind losing that little bit of soundstaginess. If you have the Draco and you really dig the sound and you want a little bit more detail, specifically in the cymbals and the upper instrument harmonics, I think the BMaster 5 is something worth looking into. Next up, we've got a bass headset, and one that I feel doesn't seem to get a lot of love. It's the 7 Hz Legato, priced at 110 US dollars. The Draco and the Legato have a very similar mid-bass and lower mids sort of presentation going on. What I feel separates these is the sub-bass rumble here on the Legato, which I would describe as considerable. That and the kind of wonky tonality that the Legato has in the treble, I feel isn't really present on the BMaster 5. The BMaster 5 is definitely more energetic in the upper mids and treble, and it comes across as smoother and more V-shaped as a result, whereas this is, I feel, straight up just bass head. This will not match the sheer bass rumble that the Legato's dedicated subwoofer can put out. While I think female vocals are a bit more forward on the Legato, the harmonics on those vocals are much better presented on the BMaster 5. It's just a more balanced, pleasant sounding upper mids treble on here. If you tried the Legato and you're willing to sacrifice that sub bass for a cleaner, more detailed treble while keeping those warm, rich lower mids, this could be an option for you. Finally, we have one of my personal favorite sets of 2024, the relaxing, the beautiful, the also out on loan AFUL Explorer, priced at 120 US dollars, being stood in by the AFUL Performer 5 here. Again, this is Graph Talk. I wasn't able to actually A-B these two going off of memory here, but I have listened to the Explorer quite a bit. If I recall, the Explorer is just more relaxed, more balanced, warmer, more neutral sounding compared to the BMaster 5. You've got less energy across the upper mids and treble. You've got more of that sub bass. You do lose a little bit of mid-bass punch compared to the BMaster 5. But overall, I would say if you're looking for just a relaxing, long listening set, the Explorer 100% is my choice here. Some people have said that the treble on the Explorer sounds lifeless. I personally don't feel that way, but I will say if you do want a little extra life in your treble and you want a bit more thump in that mid bass, you want extra energy for the cymbals and instrument harmonics, BMaster 5 can be a pretty decent alternative to the Explorer. So, quick summary. Explorer, most relaxing set here, easily, still my pick if you want a long listen set. The Legato is for bass heads. It's by far the bassiest, but has that wonky treble presentation and isn't the best technical performer, especially at the price. The QKZ and the Draco here, I feel like are stepping stones to get to the BMaster 5. While the QKZ XHBB is more of a straight up warm set, I still feel like it's sort of a upgrade path here. The Draco and the BMaster offer more of a colored lo-fi listening experience compared to the QKZ XHBB. The Draco has more of that female vocal emphasis, a little bit more of that soundstaginess going on. BMaster has both of these beat in terms of treble, especially with cymbal and instrument harmonics. I think it definitely comes off as more V-shaped than the other two while still retaining that sort of lo-fi vibe. So, enough comparisons. Let's go ahead and put these up on my Audio Amigo Arbitrary rating scale. Let's see where they'll end up. The BMaster 5, according to all of the marketing materials that I've seen, these are targeted at gigging musicians for stage and everyday use, and I feel like you can really see that reflected in both the tuning and the included accessories. The case here, while not pocketable, is sturdy and would go well in a flight case or in a backpack or in a suitcase somewhere. And it does come with the leather pouch for more everyday use and a comprehensive set of tips for attenuating noise in a passive way. In terms of tuning, the replay of music on these emphasizes guitars, distortion, drums, cymbals, and bass guitar, as well as bass drums. And it does all of that while sort of de-emphasizing vocals. All of this makes sense for a gigging musician, especially if you play the instruments that it emphasizes. And honestly, if your library is jam-packed full of classic rock or rock in general, where those instruments are the main focus, I could see how this tuning could be appealing. No, it isn't natural. No, it isn't neutral. It's kind of like the Draco. It's an intentionally lo-fi sort of warm sound, but instead of going for the sound staginess as the selling point, this one adds some needed punch to the cymbals. I personally like it, but I don't think it's for everyone. Hence, it's going to end up in But I Like This. I think it's a great overall package for musicians. The different colors means good customization. It's very well built. It comes with nice cables. I think it's overall pretty good. So, while I might not be a gigging musician myself, I could still appreciate the sound on the BMaster 5. But what I will say, these are definitely not for you if you're looking for sort of clean, detailed, natural, neutral sound. That's just not what these do. Not at all. These also aren't for you if you're looking for the absolute greatest audio quality or technical performance at this price point, because these are definitely not it. If you're a bass head, yeah, these will probably have enough mid bass for you, but I personally wish these had a bit more sub bass personally to qualify as a bass headset. I don't think bass heads who love that sub bass rumble will really be into these. But I think their sales pitch on these honestly works. I think if you are a gigging musician who is looking for a good set of IEMs that will work for you both on and off the stage, I think that these will work extremely well for you. I also think, like I said, these are for owners of the Draco who wouldn't mind trading some of that vocal forwardness and sound staginess for overall detail and more sparkle up top. I also think if you have a library that's chock full of rock or other genres where the instruments are prioritized over something like female vocals, I can see these working out pretty well for you, especially if you love those really thick, warm lower mids. These are definitely not an all-rounder pair. I also don't feel like they flat out ruin the music that they're not suited for. I think these are passable even in the genres that they're not the best at. I, kind of dig their overall presentation, and as I've said many times, they have that pleasant lo-fi sound to them that I think a decent amount of people will enjoy. These also tend to go on sale pretty often. While the MSRP is $175, I have seen them closer to $150 most of the time, including as I'm filming this, actually. They're on sale for the Amazon Spring Sale at around $150. So if you're interested in these, keep an eye out for the sales. They're almost always available for less than asking. But that's going to wrap up my review for the BASN BMaster 5. Honestly, a pretty decent set of IEMs with colored but still pleasant sound that I think works well for the intended audience of musicians, as well as those who are looking to listen to rock with sort of a more warm tilt to it. But that's going to be it for the moment. Thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate all your support. This has been Omar with Audio Amigo Reviews, and I will catch you all next time.